Back in the summer 2024 anime season, Grendizer U aired. Unfortunately, it was not available to stream anywhere, and that's the reason why it has taken me a while to get round to eventually watching this. It is essentially a reboot, a first time returning to screens since 1975 when the original UFO Robot Grendizer aired. Of course, since then we've had it crossover with various other Go Nagai works, we've seen movies, we've seen little spin-off things and that, but we've never seen a proper standalone Grendizer series since that original one. Now that it is aired, all 13 episodes have been out for it for a while. Does it manage to live up to the iconicness and the belovedness of that original series, or does it fall completely on its face? Let's talk about it. But before we dive into it, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of Mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also head on down to the comment section below if you are one of the few people who've managed to find a way to watch Grendizer U, then let me know what you thought of it. I do want to preface that my knowledge and experience with Grendizer is very limited. The only thing that I've really touched on in terms of Grendizer media is the game that came out on PS5, PS4 and I think Nintendo Switch, which is UFO Robot Grendizer The Feast of the Wolves. That's my only knowledge and really only experience with this franchise. So going into Grendizer U, I wasn't going in as a purist or someone that has a lot of nostalgia or experience with this franchise. I was essentially looking at it as just a series. And I will say that right off the bat, I don't think this was particularly great. However, there are some things that I did like about it. First off, I think it did a really good job of creating a Grendizer series in the modern day that still feels true to the original stuff. Like I said, I haven't watched the original series, but the game is very much feeling like that, from the music, the dialogue, all that kind of stuff. It's meant to evoke the same feeling of the original series, so I kind of had an idea and a vibe as to what the tone and I guess the design work would be. And I think this did a really good job at recapturing that. It does very much not feel like a 2024 series, and I say that in a really good way. It feels very nostalgic, even if you haven't actually got much experience with the Grendizer franchise or 70s super robot anime. With that in mind though, it does manage to bring all of that into the modern day without compromising too much on tone or design work from Go Nagai, which is obviously very iconic, very beloved. There's a lot of people that love Go Nagai. He's one of the original really godfathers of mecha. He's certainly the godfather of the super robot genre, but I think in terms of mecha, you've got Tomino and then you've got Go Nagai. I think those are the two main guys that really catapulted this whole genre. And speaking of those designs, I think that they nailed it across the board, whether it's the mecha, the characters. Some of the characters could have come across as goofy, especially their outfits, very much old school kind of space pilot suits. But for some reason, it kind of works. Even, making it in 2024, it feels classic and nostalgic, but it still feels like something that, yeah, someone in this day and age, a modern Gundam series, could work with these type of outfits, and it wouldn't feel completely out of left field or completely old school, but it still has that nice touch of old school as well, which is always nice to have. The mecha designs as well across the board are really good. This might actually be my favourite Grendizer design we've ever had. Mazinga also looks great in this series. It's not quite my favourite Mazinga design. I always like a bit more of a intense version of Mazinga that looks not necessarily evil, but kind of has more angled looks, especially to its eyes. This one very much looks like classic Mazinga, which I know a lot of people will really enjoy, and nonetheless, even though it's not my favourite Mazinga design, it still looks really good. And every other mecha design, all the other Saucer Beasts, they all look really, really cool, very much taking inspiration from the original, but adding their own kind of modern spin to it, making them look a little bit more detailed. And the animation across the board looks really good. The characters look great, the mecha. Some people will have issues with it because it's CGI, but if you've seen Gundam Seed Freedom, which is actually from the same creator as that, it's a similar kind of style of CGI. So if you like the CGI in that film, you'll probably like the CGI in this, and you'd be a little bit hypocritical to say that one looks amazing, whereas the other looks really bad. Aside from a lot of those technical details and design details that I've just talked about, I didn't really like this series, and trust me, I wanted to like it, but I wasn't going in with any sort of formed opinion. I wasn't going in expecting this to be good or expecting this to be bad. I went in very much open-minded, but I just could never truly get into it. And there's a lot of reasons to that, which we will dive into now. The biggest one though for me is that I simply never found it compelling. The problem that it has is that it doesn't know where to put its focus, especially in terms of character dynamics. The first part of the series is more so focused on Daisuke, or Duke Fleet, whatever you want to call him, and his kind of relationships with certain people on Earth. The second half goes more into some of the Vega forces and Duke's relationship with those, kind of diving a little bit more into his past and how those relationships were formed. And because of that, you never really managed to flesh out one set of people. Now, you could have gone the route of focusing more on his human Earth connections, and that would have fleshed them out a lot better and create some really compelling characters and dynamics. Or you could have gone the opposite route and you focus very much on the Fleet connections, the Vega connections, and more of the outer space connections, if you will. And even though there are some great ideas introduced in this series, one of which I really enjoy in that they kind of create this connection between Grendizer and Earth, and the fact that Grendizer might have been created here like a long time ago, and there's ideas of that are established, never truly fleshed out. I'm sure that if they do a season 2, that's kind of the direction they'll go, where they'll dive into it there. But in terms of just like this as a standalone season, if we never get a season 2, a lot of that stuff's going to be very underwhelming. But also a lot of the plot points that are introduced are either rushed through or they are kind of concluded in a very underwhelming way. The first episode in particular is one of the most rushed anime premieres I've seen in recent years. You establish this whole idea of Duke having amnesia, going under the name Daisuke on Earth. You do like a 3-month time jump, and then you essentially put all those memories back into him after this minor car crash that he's not even involved in. He just sees some things on the road, some flames, some bikes, and then all of a sudden everything comes rushing back to him. And you essentially like wrap up that whole amnesia plotline really within the first episode, where it could have been something that was drip fed over the course of the season. You could have had this unreliable narrator kind of perspective, and a lot of that stuff is wrapped up very quickly. Not necessarily all in the first episode, but I think by the time you get to episode 4 or 5, all of that amnesia stuff and like all these mysteries about why Duke left Fleet and all this kind of stuff, that's wrapped up by episode 5. So then you have another, 8 episodes or so of the season where you just don't have that compelling, unreliable narrator arc or just a compelling storyline going on. Even though a lot of the plot lines in the episodes feel rushed, it also feels like nothing is going on. You don't feel like things happen, even though they do. It's a very weird scenario to be in. I think that one of my biggest frustrations throughout the series, though, is the severe lack of urgency. Which you would think there would be that if these episodes are really fast paced and these plot lines are being wrapped up really quickly. But that does not seem to be the case at all. You have the Vega constantly attacking, and it almost replays the same kind of scenario where the Vega attack the base, they're pushed back, repeat. That's essentially what's happening in most of the episodes, and you would think that it would get to a point where Grendizer would just fly up and face the Vega forces. Because he can, he's powerful enough. I know that Mazinga can't fly like throughout most of the series, but Grendizer can. It can go up in space, it can face the Vega forces. It's literally orbiting just outside the Earth's atmosphere. Why do they not go fight it? I don't know. It's never really explained. It is almost like we're trying to stretch this out because we're obliged to cover these 13 episodes, and of course the 13th episode is where you get the big showdown. Now I get that kind of thing happens in series a lot, where you have to arbitrarily stretch out the storyline and come up with reasons why they can't just go face the enemy head on, but there's no compelling reasons established here, and it's blatantly obvious that he could just fly up and destroy them, because that's essentially what he does in the end. So why did he not do it like 5 episodes earlier? Pointless drama that's really not compelling. And speaking of drama that's not compelling, there are some weird decisions made by characters in this series. And I'm not going to dive into them for the sake of spoilers, but there's one, I think it was either episode 9 or episode 10 towards the end of there, that was just a bizarre decision, and I don't want to say felt completely out of character, but it just really made that character unlikable and just felt like a weird cliffhanger to end on. I don't know whether that was just my experience with that certain episode and that certain twist, but I don't know, it just felt a little bit icky to me. So overall, whilst I really wanted to enjoy Grendizer U, I just did not find this series compelling whatsoever. There's good ideas in here which are all rushed, the plot points are all rushed, it's not compelling whatsoever, at least in my opinion. The characters could have been so much better than they were, and whilst yes, solid animation, solid production design, really good design work, whether that's the mecha or the characters, and just an overall classic feeling tone that manages to recapture that feeling of the original Grendizer series, it just ultimately did not deliver a series that in my opinion was that great. So with all that in mind, I'm going to give Grendizer U a C. Before I get out of here, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I did say earlier, head on down to the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on Grendizer U if you've seen it. Also, stay tuned because I'm going to be ranking all of the 2024 mecha anime series pretty soon anyway. I've still got Brave Bang Braven to watch, and I will be bringing you guys a review of that. But once I've seen that series, we can rank all the mecha anime series from 2024. Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today, and I'll see you guys next time.